guys, welcome back to my channel. I know this video has been a long time coming, but we are finally starting my declutter today. I have been overdue for a declutter for probably over a year now, and it is time. We're going to do this in probably 3 parts. Today we're going to be doing my eyeshadows. We're doing the big one first. I am hoping to get rid of at least 30% of my eyeshadows. We shall see how I do. You guys know I have trouble getting rid of my makeup period, but especially my eyeshadows. I'm very attached to them, but we're going to be cutthroat today. So buckle in. After today we will tackle the rest of my makeup collection, face products, bronzers, blushes, highlighters, foundations, concealers, brow products, everything. And we're gonna organize everything in my makeup room right now, which is very messy. So this should be fun, kind of an in-depth look at my makeup collection. I'm actually very excited about this. Hopefully you guys are as well. Before we jump into that though, if you are new here, welcome. I hope that you enjoy this video today. Please be sure to subscribe to my channel and make sure your notifications are turned on. But we have a lot to do, so let's get right to it. So I have everything dumped out on the floor. These are my small palettes over here. Then these are all just my larger palettes. I've got some singles kind of out here. You can't really see them. Actually, let's put those over here on top of these, why don't we? And then I'm also gonna pull, these are the face palettes. Let's get these out of the way. We'll do those last. Let's start with my Natasha Denona because we all know I'm probably gonna keep nearly all of these. I think I might get rid of one. Actually, these two are Sydney Grace. Let's keep those over there. So these are all my Natasha Denona palettes. Keeping these ones, these are probably my newest. I think I'm gonna get rid of my Safari palette. I love this palette. It's been discontinued though. It's such a good matte palette, but I don't use mattes like this very often. And I definitely have these similar colors throughout my collection. I just need to be a little bit more cutthroat. So we're gonna say goodbye to that one. I was thinking now that I have the new golden palette, I could maybe get rid of the bronze palette, but there are a couple shades in here. Ooh, this one's kind of messy that I don't think I can replace, especially this one right there. So we're gonna keep the bronze palette as well. Okay, let's go through this section. This is my Juvia's Place and BH Cosmetics, I believe. I wanna try and make some cuts here. Okay, let me just have a look. I love the BH Cosmetics palette so much. But I really don't need to keep all of these. Let me just open these up really quick. Okay, we're gonna say goodbye to the Lost in Los Angeles palette, even though I think this is a really fun, colorful palette. And then I feel like I should get rid of the Hangin' in Hawaii or the Amalfi. I'm gonna get rid of the Amalfi one. I love this palette so much, but there are a couple of shimmers in the Hangin' in Hawaii that I prefer to the Amore in Amalfi, so we will say goodbye to that one. And I'm also gonna keep my blueberry one because I love the shimmers in here. I'm gonna say goodbye to the avocado palette. Oh, that's a tough one. Man, this is gonna be so hard. Let's go through my Juvia's Place. I'm definitely keeping the Nomad palette. You guys know that's one of my favorites. The Deuce palette is so good. I also love the Tribe palette. However, I kind of feel like I have these shades now in some Anastasia palettes, so I'm going to say goodbye to my Tribe palette. That was another hard one. Someone is gonna love these palettes so much because they are so good. This is another one that I love the pinks and peaches in here. I'm gonna say goodbye to the Masquerade Mini. I'm going to keep my Coffee Shop palette. This is a fantastic bronze toned palette. And then I've just got a few more we need to consider. Okay, and of these 5, I wanna get rid of 2 at least. I feel like I've got to keep my Deuce palette. That's just such a good one. I'm gonna say goodbye to my Coral palette because I don't like the grays in there. Okay, I've got to get rid of one more. You know what? I'm gonna get rid of my Magic Mini. That might shock some of you guys. That is an old favorite of mine. These are just such good classic palettes. Love the warmth and the shimmers in this one. This one's just such a good staple. We'll keep those for now. Now let's move on to my Alter Ego palette. So I have already decluttered some of the Alter Ego palettes. Let's see. The Mirage palette is actually a dupe for the Empowered palette. So I'm going to get rid of the Mirage. And you guys, do you know what? I think I'm going to declutter my Huda Beauty Empowered palette. There are a couple shades I feel are missing as far as creating a complete eye look for me in here. And as much as I really like it, I just don't need it. So I'm gonna get rid of both of these actually. I'm gonna get rid of this Dream Gaze palette. This is a brand new in the box. This is a dupe for the Pastel palette from Natasha Denona. That's probably my least favorite Natasha Denona palette, and I don't need the duplicate. So great recommendation if you like colorful shadows that are pastel tones, but not one that I need. I'm also going to pass along my Sakura palette, which is a dupe for the Retro Glam, which I love. One of my favorites if you like minty greens and pinks and bronzes. I actually like the setup of the color story of this one better because you have the greens and the pinks and the bronzes all kind of separated. Got my Coastal palette, my Artemis palette, and my Sahara palette here.
This is such, if you like neutral palettes, this is such a good one. I just have so many, I don't feel like I need it, so I'm gonna pass it along. Artemis, this is a really fun one. But again, you guys, I just don't feel like I need it. I'm going to keep the Coastal, because this one is probably the most unique of the palettes of theirs that I don't have a duplicate for. Forgot one more from Alter Ego. This is the Luster palette, which I think is supposed to be a dupe for the Pat McGrath Mothership. I can't remember. One of the rose Mothership ones. This is a great palette. I just have so many berry tones. I don't feel like I need this one. Sorry, I'm gonna move my camera a little bit. I don't want my face to be in the camera. I'm gonna declutter my Harry Potter palette. This one's kind of hard because I love the packaging so much. You guys might know I'm a big Harry Potter fan. It's just kind of I wouldn't say part of my childhood. I was like 22 when Harry Potter came out, but I love Harry Potter. Loved how they did the packaging of this, but honestly, you guys, this is not the best Colourpop palette. I rarely have a Colourpop palette that I just don't like that much. I don't like this palette that much as far as the shadows. Love the names, love the packaging. I feel like I should keep it for sentimental reasons, but I don't know that I'm gonna get any use out of this. So I should just read my Harry Potter books when I'm in the mood for Harry Potter rather than stare at an eyeshadow palette. So I'm gonna pass this one along. It's not awful, it's just not the higher quality Colourpop that I'm used to. Okay, here are my Pat McGrath palettes, my larger ones. So this one I'm gonna get rid of. This is probably one of the most disappointing purchases. It wasn't terrible, but it was very expensive, and I don't feel like it was that spectacular or special for how expensive it was, and I don't feel like you got very much bang for your buck in the amount of options that you got. It's just 9 shadows and 2 blushes that I don't like as much as the blushes I already own, so I'm going to pass that one along. I think I might keep these 2 for now. This one could be on the chopping block later. I would definitely keep the red one over the pink one, but there are some really, really pretty shimmers in their pink one that I love as well. So I'm gonna keep both of these for now. I'm also gonna keep my Mothership 6. This is the Mothership 6. I love this palette. It's so good, so expensive, but really good quality, fantastic packaging. Okay, let's go through some Sydney Grace palettes next. Got a lot. Oh my goodness, this is gonna be perhaps the hardest one yet. Holy smokes, you guys. I did not realize I owned so many Sydney Grace palettes. These are all my Sydney Grace palettes. I'm keeping all of my singles, so these hold all of my single shadows. I have some single blushes and highlighters in here as well. Pink toned shades in here. Have some other singles in these old Coastal Scents palettes. This might be empty, almost empty. And then these are their magnetized palettes, which I love. They're all pretty much full of singles. I've heard me say this before. If there was a fire in my house, I would probably just grab all of my Sydney Grace shadows, maybe my Natasha Denonas, and be okay with the rest of it burning. I'm partially kidding, but that's kind of where I rank them in my mind. So I'm keeping this palette. I love this Unveiled palette. I actually am doing my soon-to-be daughter-in-law's wedding makeup. We just did a trial run and we used this palette, which is made by a bridal makeup artist, and it made the most beautiful bridal look. She absolutely loved it. She looked amazing. I'm keeping my Love palette. This is the older packaging, still one of my very favorites. Oh boy, this is where it's gonna get really hard. That's such a good neutral. I know for sure I can get rid of this green tone palette. This looks like a palette that I would love, but it's much more bold on the eyes than I would think it is looking at it. This shimmer right here is very green toned. It's pretty, it just creates a really bold look. So I think I'm gonna get rid of this one, even though I love the packaging. Maybe I'll see if Charlie wants to hang on to this one. She loves to play in my makeup, especially the ones that have really fun, bright colors like this. These are some of her favorite colors and really pretty packaging. So maybe she'll keep that one so I can sort of keep it. I know that's kind of cheating. Okay, let's go through these ones. I feel like these are a few of the ones that I could probably pass along. Okay, I need to decide between these 2. I don't feel like I need them both. They're quite different. In fact, maybe between these 3. I actually feel like these 2 are more similar than that one right here. This is very pinky, kind of reddish pink tone. I'm gonna pass this one along. The Raspberry Kiss, so pretty. Oh, I kind of hate to do that. However, looking at these 2, I love this Summer Days palette. It's such a beautiful one, but I feel like these are so similar to each other. Hang on, I kind of want to keep these both. I'm definitely keeping the Coffee Talk. This is such a good cooler tone palette that's not too cool for me as someone that doesn't love cool tones. So I'm keeping that one. I'm also going to keep both of these. These have some really pretty shades in them. They are a huge mess. They're very colorful. A lot of shades in here I won't reach for. But like this shade right here, the Milky Way, and then this shade, Magellan's Light, in this one, I absolutely love. I probably should just buy the singles of some of my favorite shades in here and then pass these along. But for now, I'm going to keep them both. I feel like those might at some point get decluttered if I can replace some of my favorite singles. This one I think I will pass along. It's really fun. It's also very kind of bold and colorful. I think I like my more neutral ones better. So we'll get rid of that one. I'm going to keep my Summer Days and my California Coast. And then let's have a look at these last 4. You know what, you guys? I think I'm going to get rid of my Tiny Marvels palette. Oh, I hate to do that. This is like an OG Sydney Grace. It's so good. But it is more colorful than I have been feeling for the last 2 years. So I am much more likely to reach for these than some of the bold shades in here. And I feel like there's some duplicates or like close replicates in some of these other palettes. So I'm gonna let someone else enjoy this. As far as these 3, I feel like I should get rid of one. So we've got my EXO palette, got the Love's Journey, and then my Unbreakable Bond. This one's definitely more peachy in tone. This is very kind of neutral, which I feel like I'm moving in this direction more and more. I'm gonna get rid of the Be Mine. Oh, that was so hard. I think I like these 2 just a little bit better. Okay, let's have a look at this little stash right here. So I've got my Tati Beauty palette. I feel like this is like represents something very YouTubey, very kind of sentimental, and it is fantastic quality. I know you can't buy it anymore. I doubt that I'm gonna use this that much, you guys. You know what, I'm gonna get rid of it. Oh, that's so hard. This is such a good quality eyeshadow palette, but I just don't need it. Okay, these 2 are BH Cosmetics. This is their Christmas palette. Honestly, if this was not Christmas packaging, I wouldn't even hesitate to keep this one. It's so good. There's so many great shades in here. It's discontinued, and honestly I just have so much I don't feel like I need it, so I'm gonna pass it along. I also go, this is such a good OG, but again, I just have too much. I'm gonna get rid of this one. It's so big, so good, but it was fun while it lasted. And then this ABH Norvina one. I'm gonna keep this one for now. There are some fun shades in here. It's great quality. It is a little newer to me, even though I know this is an older release. I just picked this up, I think in 2023, so I'm gonna keep it for a bit longer. All right, let's go through all my Nabla. I probably won't get rid of a lot of these because I already kind of decluttered my Nabla palettes and kind of narrowed things down. Honestly, I kind of feel like I don't need both of these. I'm going to keep my Side by Side and pass along the Read My Mind, which is such a great palette. I know there's probably some of you that have heard me rave about these and are thinking to yourself, what are you doing? I love all of these, but I just don't need them all. Okay, we're going to pass along my very beautiful Cutie Platinum palette. Some of the best silvers in here, but I just don't need it. And I don't use silver that much anymore. I am going to keep this one. This is the Metropolitan palette. Very pretty. Some really pretty shimmers in there. I also love my Analog. I might get rid of the Wild Berry. This one's just a little too bold for me. I think I like these 3 better, so I'm gonna get rid of that one. Oh, that was hard. Very favorite is my Cutie Nude palette. I love this thing so much. So we'll keep these 4 from Nabla. Smaller Nabla collection for how much I love that brand. I'm also gonna get rid of this little Juvia's Place palette. I don't know if they even make this anymore. This is the Vanessa and Juvia's Place collaboration. It's really good. I just don't use it that often. Let's go through some of these, this sized palettes. Definitely keeping my Patrick Ta. Such a good quality palette. I think I'm gonna get rid of this one. This is the Wild Greens palette from Urban Decay. It's actually really good. The color, I think my mom will really like this palette. She loves these kind of like muted green tones. I think I got this on discount at a Marshall's or a TJ Maxx. I just don't need it. This Laura Geller palette is actually really good. I'm gonna keep that one. I know it's kind of like a random brand. This one's pretty good as well. Okay, here's what I decided as I was pulling my makeup off my shelf. I decided to keep one old school YouTube palette. I don't want to keep them both. So I have the Urban Decay Original Naked palette and the Tartelette in Bloom. I think I'm going to go with the In Bloom palette. I love these. Well, I shouldn't say that. They're both great palettes. I really never have used this palette. It was the first high-end palette that I ever bought. So I was really careful about using it because I didn't want it to run out, which is hilarious because I haven't even dented any of these shadows now. They kind of went unused for many years, but I just don't see myself using it, and I'm not that attached to it anymore. This is a much better palette. You still can buy this one, and I know a lot of you guys love this palette. It's kind of one of your OGs as well, so I'll keep this one. As far as my ABH, hang on, ABH palettes right here. Oh boy, I don't feel like I can possibly get rid of this palette. It's just one of my favorites. Same with the Rose Metals palette. That palette has grown on me a lot. And the Soft Glam is just so classic, but I don't know that I need it. I'm gonna get rid of it. This one is from Heather Austin Adept Cosmetics. Such a fun palette, such great quality, such interesting shimmers. I don't know, you guys, I just am feeling like it's a little too bold for my taste lately. I feel like my tastes have kind of changed, or even like multi-chrome kind of shimmers, which used to be my favorite thing to kind of put on my eyes and play with. I just don't wear them as much as I used to, so I think I'm gonna pass this one along as well. This is the Ambiance palette from Sigma. I'm gonna keep this because it's the only Sigma palette that I own. That leaves us with my Too Faced Pumpkin Spice and my Essence Hello Berlin. I'm gonna keep this one because it's a good affordable, I think it's my only Essence larger eyeshadow palette other than the little 6 pans. I think this is my only Too Faced palette as well, which means I'm gonna keep this one for now as well. This might be on the chopping block in the future. Okay, here are all my Colourpop palettes. I've gotta make a couple of cuts. I'm gonna cut my Mulan palette. Oh, so sad. Mulan is one of my very favorite Disney movies. It's such a great palette. It's so old though, and it's way discontinued. I think this thing has not been around for several years. I'm gonna get rid of my Heavy Petal palette. I didn't think this thing was amazing either. Kind of reminded me of the subpar moderate quality of the Harry Potter palette. It just wasn't one of Colourpop's best. I also think I'm going to declutter my Lust for Dust palette. As pretty as this one looks, I just don't use it very much, and the couple times I have used it, I didn't love the looks that came out of it. So, oh, the Sweet Talk, such a good classic, but I know I have other corals in my collection, so I'm going to pass this one along as well. These are the ones that I think I'll probably keep. I'm definitely keeping my That's Taupe. I'm keeping my Making Moths. I'm keeping my Nude Mood, which is kind of new to me, and I really love this one. This Fresh Green ones, it's quite green, but I like the greens in here. It creates some really pretty looks. Love this Petals on Point palette. And of course my Blush Crush and Fill In Bubbly are two of my absolute favorite Colourpops. So I'm keeping both of those as well. So that's all right. I feel like I did good on the front end. I'm definitely keeping my Always Naked palette. I've got a Makeup by Mario palette here. This is too new for me to declutter. I'm trying to convince myself that I like this palette as much as everyone else seems to like it. It's good quality. I just feel like it's kind of boring for me. I kind of wish I would have gone with the warmer one, but for now I'm going to keep it, but I have a feeling this might make it into a declutter in the future. A couple more here. We've got some Flower Beauty, 3 Flower Beauty. Let's see. I've got my Persona palettes. I'm keeping my original, even though I feel like I should buy a new version of this palette because it's so old and I have the old packaging. But honestly, it still works just fine. I might get rid of the Identity 2. Again, these colors are just not ones that I'm reaching for a ton. And when I want a lot of color, I don't need so many options to pick from. So I'm gonna get rid of this one. I wish I could actually put these shadows in here because I like the packaging of this better, but I can always just buy a new version of that if I decide to. I'm gonna get rid of this Physicians Formula. It's actually really good. I think the color story is nice. The formulas are nice. I just don't ever use it. So someone else will get more use out of that, I hope. I love the NARS Summer Unrated palette. This palette took a long time to grow on me because it's very expensive for the size of shadows that you're getting, but it's actually really, really good. I feel the same way about the Dreamy Dozen palette. This is such a good neutral palette. I'm gonna keep that one as well. I am gonna get rid of my Pat McGrath. What was this, the Love Collection? No, the Iconic Infatuation from the Love Collection. Very pretty. It was very expensive. And then my Jungle Lights, my Coastal Lights, and my Desert Lights. I feel like I don't need all of these. I could probably get rid of one. Okay, call me crazy guys, but I'm actually gonna keep my desert lights and my coastal lights. I'm gonna get rid of my jungle lights. And the reason being, these three, it's kind of broken, plus these three shimmers right here are a little too dark for me. I don't like shimmers that are more mid-tone or dark. I don't use them as much. Passing along this classic, I feel like we had a good run. Okay, moving right along, we're gonna pause for my eyeshadows for a sec before we jump into my minis over here, my smaller eyeshadows, and we're gonna go through some base palettes. I don't need all of these. I'm going to get rid of this one. This is the Kevin Aquan. It's like a book, it has some like cream and powders. It's very old and I got it at a discount store and I never use it. It's actually really good quality. It just is very old and I don't know, that one probably should be thrown away actually. I'm also gonna get rid of my Profusion. This is so good if you are on an extreme budget, but I never use it and I don't need to hold on to it for now. Definitely keeping my Cheek Stars Benefit palette. I love this. I'm definitely keeping my Luminous Light from Sydney Grace, one of my faves. I'm gonna keep this Tarte Glow Bar. I love the bronzer in here. Don't know about the highlighters. I feel like they're kind of, I don't know, I feel like they don't show up on me. I've actually used them on other people and I think they show up a lot better. I'm gonna get rid of this Sigma highlighter palette. I swear I decluttered this. By the way, you guys, if there are things that you remember me decluttering before and they somehow made it back into my collection, that's because anything that doesn't get picked over by people that I allow to go through my declutters, Charlie sometimes will like come in and get out and play with, and then somehow it ends up making it back onto a shelf. So it seems like I might have decluttered this before. I don't love the Sigma highlighter formula. I think it's a little bit too glittery for my liking, as much as I love the packaging, so I'm gonna pass this one along. Okay, I'm definitely keeping my Flower Beauty highlighter. I love the Flower Beauty highlight formula. I also love this BH Cosmetics highlighter formula. So old and dirty, but I still reach for that quite a bit. As far as the Belgian Waffle palette, I really like this bronzer and these two highlighters. I don't use this shade or that shade very much, but I'm gonna keep it. I just love the BH Cosmetics highlighter formula so much. The Smashbox palette, I'm gonna pass it along. I haven't used it for probably a year and I know someone else will love that. I love this highlighter palette. I've actually repressed this highlighter twice. I love the Pixie highlighter formula. I don't feel like it's the same anymore and it's hard to find powder formulas from Pixie. She's kind of changed up her line a little bit, but I just don't need it. I'm gonna pass that one along. This one is also from BH Cosmetics, the Tahiti palette. It's a fun one for travel. It's smaller, like almost obnoxiously small, but I like the formula, so I'm gonna keep it for now. It might get cut later because the size is on the smaller side. And then I have this Lottie London highlighter palette that I actually like a lot, and surprisingly it looks very dark, but this is the only shade that is too dark for me. The rest of them actually are really beautiful, so I'm gonna keep that as well. So that's kind of not quite half for my face palettes. I got rid of a little bit less than half, so these ones I'll declutter, these ones I'll keep. Okay, these two were on my shelf. This is Charlie's little, they're Colourpop singles that I just don't use because I don't know, they're good, I just don't ever use them, and I kind of gifted this to her because she loved the butterfly packaging. Also, this was in my last declutter, it got decluttered, and she dug it out because she just loved this color story so much. She doesn't actually wear makeup, she just likes to look at my makeup sometimes and play. She's only 7 years old, so obviously she is not wearing eyeshadow, but she likes to have her own little collection. It makes her feel like her mom, which I think is so cute, and it's fun to look at things together. So these obviously aren't going anywhere, but if you're wondering why this is back in the stash, that is why. All right, and here are my single shadows here, which by the way, I have a couple more I need to throw in there. Just these 3 from Persona, and then these are my small eyeshadow palettes. So let's go through these first. I'm going to declutter these Melt Cosmetics palettes. I actually like the formulas of these. Color story wise though, this one was just too colorful. This one didn't have a light enough shimmer in it, and I think someone else will enjoy them a lot more than I enjoyed them. I just feel like the color stories were not quite me. Also going to declutter the MAC Kryptonite 6-pan palette. It has satin taupe in here. It was just not a color story that I loved. Very, very cool toned. Also this one, this is from Pure Cosmetics. I actually love this little neutral palette, but I never use it. I forgot that I even had it until now. And I just don't think I need it. So I'm gonna pass this one along. I actually think it's really good. I like Pure Cosmetics. I feel like they're kind of an underrated brand. Are they even a brand anymore? I don't know, maybe they're not. Maybe I feel like they're one of those brands that stopped releasing makeup and maybe was just, this is Makeup by Mario. Love this brown, but I don't really like the other. Actually, I love this silver too. It's kind of like a taupey silver. I hate to keep a whole palette just for one shade. And I haven't used it for over a year. So I'm gonna pass this along. This Viseart palette is so tiny I forget that I even own it. But if I ever somehow for some reason start doing a lot of traveling, I think the quality is really nice. It's not the best color story ever, but it's not bad. I'm gonna keep it for now. These are both from Pat McGrath. I am definitely keeping this little one. This is the Midnight Voyage. And then I think I'm going to pass along this one, which is the Midnight, what was it called? Sublime? No, Midnight Sublime Smoke. It's actually really good. I just didn't like this shimmer. It's a little bit too yellowy for me. Okay, here are my Colourpop quads. I went through a period where I just loved these so much and reached for them a ton. Gifted these to people. I bought backups because I thought they made cute little gifts. I like the shimmers so much because they have such pretty sparkle. They remind me of Natasha Denona shimmers, but I don't need to keep all of these. So I'm going to just pick 2, I think. I'm gonna get rid of this one. This is the green, I think it's like the Taurus palette. And then I'm going to also, let's see, get rid of this one. This is the Virgo. I love the packaging of these. They feel very high quality and sturdy for plastic packaging. This one I really love, actually. I might keep that one. And then, should I keep the berry tone too? Yeah, I'll keep the Citrus Fizz and the Sorbet, and I'll pass along the Cream Soda. Okay, here are the Essence palettes. I don't think I can get rid of any of these. I've kind of already narrowed or cut out a couple of I think the gray one and the purple one that I didn't like as much, but I am keeping all of these. They're some of my very favorites. I can probably pass along this Lottie London palette. Actually, I love this little palette. I thought it was so good. I just don't use it, and I think this brand or this specific palette has been discontinued, so I'll let someone else enjoy that. This is a K-beauty brand called Unleasha. Actually, I really like this one as well. Some of these glitters have really chunky flux in them, which is why I think I'll probably declutter this, but I love the matte formulas. They're actually really nice. K-beauty eyeshadows are kind of odd. I've noticed whenever I try out eyeshadows from Korean beauty brands, they're kind of just different. I don't know how to explain it. Okay, these I've always kept through declutters because these are some of the very first high-end, I think these were the very first high-end eyeshadows I ever bought. This was like back in the year 2008, which is insane. That's almost 20 years ago. What are you doing, Mandy? I don't use these anymore. And at this point, I can probably just throw them away. Okay, here are my Huda Beauty palettes. I'm definitely keeping the Nude Light. This has long been one of my very favorites. Love the packaging of these so much. I'm also going to, let's see, I'm only going to keep one of these matte palettes. I have a lot of warm tones in my collection, and I feel like there is some overlap in this palette as far as the types of, like the oranges in here. Yeah, I'm going to get rid of the warm one, and I'm going to keep the cool. And then I've got to keep my Khaki Haze palette. It's not even necessarily the shadows in here, it's more the packaging. I like the shadows. There's a couple that I don't think are the best quality, but I love the packaging of this one, so I'm gonna keep it. I'm also, I don't know, that's a good little quad. It was so cheap. Good neutral color story. I just don't think I need it. I'm gonna pass that along. I have other small palettes I can take with me when I travel. Let's go through all my Natasha Denona minis. I don't think I can declutter any of these. Maybe if I had to, I'd probably say the Mini Love I could pass on. I just don't feel like I can quite get rid of one of these yet, so I'm gonna keep them for now. Got 2 of the e.l.f. ones. Last time I decluttered a bunch of these. I'm gonna declutter the Hot Jalapeno. It's just too bold for me. Kind of gotten a little bit more boring in my eyeshadows lately. This is a good little palette from the drugstore, if you can find this. This is the LA Colors Radiant Beauty, I think it's just called the Radiant Beauty palette. It's not the best quality. I will not say that. I think Wet n Wild's quality is way better than this, but for, I think it's $1.98, it's not terrible. If you have an eyeshadow primer or a really good concealer underneath, decent color story, decent formula for $2. I've got my Wet n Wild smaller color icon palettes here. I think I'm gonna keep all of these. I've kind of already decluttered some of the ones that I didn't like quite as much, so I'm gonna keep those. I am also going to keep my larger Wet n Wild ones. Again, I think last time I decluttered one of these. I'm gonna keep those for now. I love the Color Icon palettes. I think they're some of the best affordable eyeshadows at the drugstore. Okay, let me put those back in here. Nice, that is way trimmed down. Look how empty my box is now. Let's go through my minis, or my singles, I should say. So I'm gonna keep, let's see, what is this one? This is Smoke and Mirrors from Sydney Grace. It's a little bit too dark. I am going to keep these 3 from Sydney Grace. I have Starstruck, Candlelight, and Boardwalk. This is a bronze. This is a kind of like a shimmery champagne pink. And this is kind of like a, it's similar to the shimmery champagne pink Candlelight, but it has more sparkle in it. A little bit of glitter in it, very pretty. I'm going to declutter this little Milani shadow. I went through a phase where I reached for these a ton. I think they even made it into a favorites video at one point. They're actually not bad, but I want to say I paid like $8 for 2 shadows, which in hindsight is a terrible deal. What was I thinking? Okay, I have a couple singles here. I have a single, I think I swapped out somewhere a Natasha Denona shade, and I have no idea what or where that was. So this is a single Natasha Denona that I don't even know where it came from. I better keep that one. This is Water Dream from Nabla, beautiful single. I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna keep my Sephora singles that I recently picked up. Actually, I think I'm gonna declutter this one. This was the only one I didn't like. This is Ballet Shoes. It was a little bit too chunky and glittery, but I'm going to keep Under the Cover, which is a slightly shimmery white, No Place Like Home, and then I had a matte here as well called Lazy Afternoon. These are actually really good. I'm gonna keep all my Kaja. I just love the Kaja trios. I don't think I can get rid of any of them. Maybe in the future, I'll feel a little bit more generous, but for now I'm gonna keep those. So I have these liquid shadows from Persona. I think they're really great. I just feel like this one's a little too colorful for me. This one's a little too dark. So we have Pony and Belle, but I'm going to keep Oro, which is a beautiful golden champagne. This one from NYX is also really pretty. This is the shade Golden Goji, very pretty. I'm gonna get rid of this Essence liquid shadow in, what was this one? Glowing Cocoa. I don't even know if I've ever used that, you guys. Oh, I found one more Sydney Grace I'm gonna keep. Stolen Kiss, this one's a little bit more of a gold. And then this is from Revolution. This is pretty good. It's called Light Up. It's just like it's probably dried out a little now. It's actually really good. If you just like tap these on and let them dry fully, they will not budge. And I think these are only like $3. So a good option if you don't want to go the Sydney Grace route. You want something cheaper and more easily accessible. I thought these were pretty good as well, but I'm gonna declutter mine. Okay, there we go, that's a little better. This is MAC's Satin Taupe. Again, this I think was one of my OG high-end purchases. I went to the MAC store and had them do my makeup and everything, and then came away with one single eyeshadow and just thought I was on top of the world, but I'm going to declutter it because it's ancient and I don't use it anymore. I'm also going to get rid of these melted chrome shadows from Essence. I actually think these are really good. I think they don't make these anymore, or they don't make these specific shades or formulas anymore. They're great alternatives to the Colourpop ones. Don't reach for them often and don't need them. This is the Prismetal, another one that is a similar type of kind of semi-creamy formula. This one's from JCat Beauty. This is the shade Chrome Galaxy, which I think this shade's also been discontinued. Mine's a little old, but it still feels like really nice and creamy inside. I'm gonna get rid of that one though and just keep my Ladybird. And I think I'll keep just 1 or 2 of these ones as well. Frog is really pretty. It's a little bit more of a cool tone than Ladybird was, more blue. I think I'll get rid of Frog. I just don't use kind of bluish. This is a really pretty kind of gray taupe. And then this one is more of like a golden. This is Amaze. This one has such a pretty shine to it. Ooh, I'm gonna keep that one. I'll keep Amaze and Ladybird and get rid of I Heart This and Frog. Okay, you guys, and that is everything. So I'm gonna tally everything up, give you guys the final numbers. Then I'll show you guys the 2 piles, what I'm keeping, what I'm getting rid of, put them back in place, and show you my newly organized eyeshadow shelf. Okay, so here we have the pile of what I am keeping, along with small shadows, singles, and then over here is my pile of declutters, including singles and small palettes. right there. So I calculated everything up. So I am keeping 59 large palettes. I decluttered 43. That is amazing for me. I was hoping to get rid of at least 25-30%. I feel like I did better than that. And then for small palettes, I am keeping 30 of my smaller palettes. I decluttered 15. And then my face palettes, I'm keeping 8 and I decluttered 5. So that was pretty successful for me. Now let me throw these back on my shelf and get organized, and I'll show you guys what that looks like. There we go. So much better.
And that is it, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this part 1 of my declutter series. Stay tuned. We will be back very soon tackling, let's see, primers, concealers, foundations. We'll probably also add lip products into that. And then for part 3, we'll do blushes, bronzers, highlighters, and mascaras. So let that be a reminder, if you are not yet subscribed, be sure to do that before you leave, and I will see all of you in my next video. Bye. By the way, also oh my gosh, there's a mouse. A mouse eating holes in my screen. I need to kill it, but I want to kill him. Mice are kind of cute when they're outside, so I hate to kill it.